Hey everybody, welcome back to Over 40 Travel. This is going to be a long episode, longer than normal, because we have a lot of information to give you. We're going to call this episode Ticket Time. It's time to tick all those boxes remaining on your timeline, so let's get started. I first want to address the elephant in the room. I am sorry for taking so long in between videos, but you know in life we always say, stuff happens. So we've had a few things happen, a few setbacks, but we're on track right now. So let's go back about 3 months ago and see where we're at. We're getting ready to buy our international flight. We were getting ready to buy our local flights. And we were really working hard on the budget and on our timeline and on our itinerary. So what we had set up 3 months ago is we were going to travel on Virgin Atlantic Airlines from New York to London. And we were going to go first class, or they call it upper class. We're going to first fly from Phoenix to New York on Delta in the morning, and then in the evening, we're going to fly from New York to London. We're going to spend the night in London, go out to dinner, have a nice time. In the morning, we're going to take a short 2-hour flight into Rome. Quite a nice way to start your vacation, don't you think? And we're going to do all this on Virgin's upper class. So how are we going to afford all this? I'll tell you. If you haven't been following along in our other videos, we're going to use our credit card points for our Venture and Sapphire card. By our estimate, we're going to do about 88,000 points on Sapphire, about 140 in Venture, for a total of 228,000 points for the year. Now, with first class costing $5,200 and premium economy costing about $3,600, we were guessing we were going to be able to shave off about $2,200 using those points, which means our upper class would cost just as much as our premium economy, or maybe a little bit less. So we began using our credit card for every purchase we could think of, and it actually paid off for us. We actually did 92,000 points on the Sapphire and over 220 on the Venture for 310,000 points. Seriously, we crushed it. So that means we're going to be getting pretty good standing when it came time to buy those tickets. Since Virgin has a sale end of January, we got ready to transfer our points. We transferred about 206,000 points over to the card, and since Virgin has immediate transfer, we logged out of CapitolOne and into Virgin and didn't see our miles. But that's okay, we waited an hour, logged back in, didn't see the transfer. So, what had happened was, it turned out there was a simple typographical error between our miles and our travel account on Virgin Airline. And that held it up for about 8 days by the time we got it figured out, which means we missed the sale. So by the time we logged back on, our flight was now about $4,500, and that was a costly mistake. So we expected the cost to be around $3,200 after we use our miles, but the actual cost is about $4,500 after we applied our miles. So we were about $1,300 over budget. So that's where we were about 3 months ago. Now let's talk about where we are now. Right now we're about 7 weeks out, so let me give you this vacation update. If you take a look at our Over 40 travel timeline, which by the way, all these documents are available free for you to download on our YouTube channel, you'll see that we're getting pretty close to the bottom. As you read through the timeline, we're looking at about the 1 to 3 month out range right now. So we've booked our expensive international flight, at least more expensive than we thought we were going to pay. We have all of our hotel rooms booked. We have all of our domestic flights booked. We have all our connecting flights booked. Right now we're looking at tours, private transports. We are totally maxing out our savings, adjusting the budget as necessary. We are booking our train tickets. We're looking at any last minute tours and attractions, because believe it or not, 7 weeks in advance, you want to take a look at those. And researching the weather that time of the year, stuff like that. We're also starting to look at some of the fun stuff, like clothing, restaurants, since most of the heavy lifting is already done. Now I know this may get confusing if you're just jumping in right now or if you haven't followed along our other videos, but let's try to keep this simple. So look at the itinerary like a bookshelf. You're gonna have your heavy books on the end, which will be our overseas flight. And then you're gonna have a smaller books in the middle, which are gonna be our domestic flights, and then our trains, and our ferries, and then our cars. So big on the outside, small on the inside. And now take that bookshelf and just flip it on its side. We're going to ignore the little thing like your Uber to the airport, but your first big book's going to be your international flight. Now before that you might have a domestic flight, but your heavy book's going to be your international flight, right? So you book those first. Then domestic flight, and then trains, and then cars, and then restaurants. Big on the outside, small on the inside. Big book to small book. So as you get to the smaller books, you get into more and more detail. And you can get as detailed as you want. I get very detailed. I don't get crazy detailed like my daughter does. She actually goes through and picks out menu items, but that's another story. Your itinerary is just a bookshelf flipped on its side. Big, heavy, expensive books on the end, and smaller, less expensive books in the middle. That's how we do our itineraries. Let's talk about the budget. We're about 7 weeks out, so the budget is everything right now. And since we started out a couple months ago with an over budget expense due to our international flight, about $1,300 more than we expected, we're looking for ways to trim the budget if possible, or just increase our savings, or actually both. I mean, realistically, the big ticket items like your flights, they're already paid for. So we're looking at anything else to shave off, and a cab ride's not going to do it. So let's look at the big ticket items remaining. First thing I'm going to look at is our lodging. One place to shave off a little money is your lodging. Now, right now, we're booked in all the fancy 4- and 5-star hotels. The Marriotts, we get a discount, so I'm looking to discount those even more if possible by checking them every single day. And if you think that's a little bit too much, trust me, it pays for itself. They don't change all the time, and sometimes they only change for a day, which is the case when I was making this video. One of our Marriott rooms dropped the price by $500. So that's a $500 saving by just rebooking the room, which I did, of course. Just by checking your rooms every single day, you would be amazed how much you can save. I'm going to keep checking the room prices and hopefully they'll change a little bit more. And if you look at the bottom of our budget sheet, the all-important trip cost, how much we have in savings, and more importantly, how much we have remaining before the trip. So right now we're doing okay. Obviously, we'd like to see this paid off before the trip time comes and actually have a little bit, maybe 10% of a buffer. Hopefully we'll get there. Now let's talk about trains, ferries, tours, and food. More of the fun stuff, right? I think so. About 7 weeks out, you want to start looking at your trains, ferries if you have to take any ferries, private cars, any of your last minute, last mile transportation. So we'll be traveling from Rome to Naples, and that's going to be our first train. Now, normally you don't need to book trains in advance, but on trains going from city to city, I highly recommend it. On this next trip, we're only going to take the train twice. That's from Rome to Naples, and from Naples back to Rome at the end of our trip. In Italy, there's really just two you have to look at: Trenitalia and Italo. We have ridden on both. They're both fantastic. But for this short train ride, which is only an hour, believe it or not, because the trains move very fast, we're going to travel on Italo this trip. During high season, the popular train routes and popular times will be sold out. You don't want to be disappointed. We recommend you buy your tickets in advance. To do this, just go to the website. For instance, we're taking Italo on this trip, and we just log into their website. Make sure you choose English, and just select from where to where. We're going from Rome Termini Station to Naples. Just type in the date, how many passengers, and it will come up with all the available trains for that day. We're going with 2 passengers, and we're looking at any time after 1 o'clock. So as you can see, there are plenty of trains. Looks like they leave about every 20 or 30 minutes on this day. And remember, you're looking at military time in Europe. So 1340 is 140, and there's 2 different stations. The new train station is the Napoli Afragola and was designed by the late great Zaha Hadid, and I can't wait to visit. It's supposed to be a beautiful structure, and it's mostly for the express trains. But once you pick your time, then you can pick what class you travel in, just like on an airplane. There's smart class, which is your economy class, all the way up to executive class. And they come with different perks and different size seats. Obviously, the economy ticket's going to be cheapest, but a flex ticket gives you more flexibility if you have to change the train or time. And economy ticket's just like an economy airplane ticket. You don't get a lot of choices. There's smart class, which is your economy class, all the way up to executive class. And they come with different perks and different size seats. Yeah, I know you might be nervous about this, buying tickets so far in advance. Okay, let me show you how we do it. So looking at our itinerary, which is pretty detailed by this point, I know on Friday the 24th, we're leaving Rome and we're traveling to Naples via train. So we have a morning event, and then looking at checking out of the hotel around 1 p.m. It's noon checkout, but hopefully we can stay till 1. Then we're going to take a cab from the hotel to the train station. And I know that's about a 15-minute cab ride, but I'll allow a half an hour. So then we're looking at any time after 1:30. So let's take a look how we book the train. Let me show you how we do this here on the chalkboard. So we're checking out of the hotel at 1 o'clock. The cab to the train station is about a 15-minute ride, and then we'll arrive at the train station between 1:15 and 1:30. So that means I'm not going to book anything until at least 2 o'clock. So looking at the website, I see that there's a train at 2:30, which gives us about an hour, just in case something happens, really about an hour 15, which is plenty of time to grab a quick drink at the train station or grab a bite, and then calmly walk into our train at 2:30. I know this may sound odd, but you really do want to give yourself some time at European train stations. They are nothing like our train stations. The food halls are incredible. You're looking at the food hall in Milan right now. So we're going to take the 2:30 train. It'll arrive in Naples at about 3:30, so about an hour, actually a little bit less. So that puts us at the train station at about 3:30. Now from there, our friends are going to travel on to Positano, and we're going to head on to Capri. The driver's going to take us from the train station to the ferry terminal, then continue on with our friends to Positano. And you can book a ferry online or with a phone app, just as easy as you can book a train or a plane. Right now we know we're going to arrive around 3:30 at the ferry station. I'm looking at a 4:25 ferry, and I can buy this on either Ferry Hopper. I can buy my ferry ticket at the terminal, which I don't recommend doing during high season. Overall, high season in Italy, I recommend buying everything in advance if you can, whether it's a couple days or even a couple of hours. You don't want to be disappointed. Now, the fun stuff, food and tours. If you think you're just going to wake up in the morning and stroll on over to the Vatican City and walk through the Vatican and St. Basilica Square, you're probably going to be met with a long 2 or 3 hour wait. That is, unless you get a skip the line or book an advance ticket. Skip the line tickets allow you to get right to the front. In addition to our skip the line ticket, we also hired a private tour guide through the Vatican. It was well worth it. Same goes for the Colosseum. If you think you're going to walk up there and just stroll around the Colosseum, you're going to be waiting in a long line. So how do you get these skip the line tickets? Very easy, they're everywhere. Just go to Google, type in skip the line Vatican tour, and you'll see dozens and dozens of choices. Viator has several tickets on sale at different prices. They come with and without tour guides. And I also really like TripAdvisor. They have the same thing. And they all range from 50 euro to 20 euro to 120 euro to 200 euro. So read the descriptions and the reviews carefully. Now, another great way to save money is go to the Office of Tourism for whatever city you're in and look for their destination tickets. So for instance, if you're going to the Colosseum, look for the Colosseum's website. All major destinations will have a website, and if you go online, you'll see that they have tickets for sale. They will have skip the line tickets for sale as well. And chances are they're going to be a little bit cheaper. So do yourself a favor, you will not be disappointed if you buy your tickets in advance. Most complaints people have when they go to these main sites and destinations is that they're sold out or they're long lines. Not you. You buy the skip the line ticket, you will skip the line. Walk right in front of everybody. My wife loves doing that. And the final thing we're going to talk about, my favorite, is food. We're going to Italy, so we know the food is going to be amazing, but wherever your destination is, I'm sure you will find excellent food there. But if you don't want to be disappointed, and you know what I'm going to say, I highly recommend you book your table in advance, especially if you're going to a Michelin star restaurant or someplace really fancy. During high season, they will book up fast. If you're just going to a regular bistro or something, you could check in a couple hours ahead of time or maybe the day before. Don't be disappointed. One of my favorite things to do is to go on TripAdvisor and just put in what are the best pizza places in Rome, and it'll give you a list of 100 or so restaurants. Then I pick 2 or 3 in the price range that I'm comfortable with and go online and read the reviews. And once you've made your choice, just look at the times available, put in the time and date, and reserve. There are a lot of restaurant reservation apps, but I use the Fork. So I just place the time, the date, and I book it on the Fork, and they reserve the time and send me email updates, which is great. And I also look at the pictures because I'm a foodie and I like looking at stuff like that. But I also get a chance to look at the restaurant itself and read the reviews, which I highly recommend. One more thing I do, and we're going to talk about this as we get closer to our trip, is I like to see exactly where the restaurant is, for instance, in relation to our hotel. So on our first night, we're going to be exhausted. It's going to be a long travel day. So at the end of the evening, I want to go out to eat someplace that is relatively close. So I go to Google Maps. I flip to the street theme. And then I just drag a little man right to my hotel. And as you can see here on the screen, that's the front of our hotel. And I just do a 360. I can see the cab lines are right there. So there's no problem catching a cab at our hotel. Then I walk with the mouse to our restaurant. And I can see our restaurant is about 2.5, 3 blocks away. So that's doable. At the end of a long day, a nice brisk 15-minute walk to the restaurant and back to the hotel, I can handle that. So that's our trip update about 7 weeks out. What we're going to do right now is focus on the budget and our little tweaks here and there, trying to make the best travel experience we can. Well, that's it for this episode. Thanks for hanging in there. I know it was a long one. Please like and subscribe. Look at our earlier episodes and join us next time on Over 40 Travel.